What's going on YouTube? In this video, we're going to be taking a look at Guyker locking tuners from AliExpress. I'm going to be installing them into a Harley Benton TE-20 HH, which is quickly becoming one of my favorite budget guitars to mod. So what I'm going to do now is a quick unboxing to give you an idea of what you can expect if you purchase these. So right out of the gate, these actually have a pretty solid feel to them, and oddly enough, I thought they were going to be the same as the Canes tuners, which I installed in my last video, but these actually have a little bit more of a solid feel. They have more weight to them. They also included the 10mm wrench. Honestly, it's kind of cool because not everybody has one of these laying around. So let's get that Harley Benton up on the table and get these tuners installed. Alright, so as mentioned before, you will need a 10mm wrench if you don't have one. I'm not sure if Guyker provided this or the seller did. To be perfectly honest with you, it was separate from the Guyker packaging. As you saw when I unboxed it, it was actually in the shipping container, not in the Guyker packaging. So you may or may not receive this with yours. And you'll want to keep a couple different size Phillips head screwdrivers on hand because these screws were difficult to get out of the backside of the headstock. All we got to do now is get it unstrung and start the install. So you want to be careful as you unscrew these. You can easily strip these heads out. These screws are really tiny, so you want to make sure you have a small Phillips head. They become very difficult to take out if you have stripped them out. So my advice is to take your time and go easy on these because they're in pretty tight, man, and definitely don't want to be in a situation where you strip them out. So, all right, so I actually had to switch screwdrivers, something that I can get a little more torque on. The past few guitars I've done, I've used these smaller screwdrivers and not had an issue, but these are in so tight, you need something you can get a little more torque on. So all we're doing from there is loosening the bushings on the front side of the tuners. You'll want to hold the tuner from the back as you undo this bushing to keep it from spinning. And of course you want to be careful not to scratch your headstock. And once that is loosened and you take it off, the tuner will drop out of the back of the headstock. Alright, so now with all of the tuners out, I'm going to make the one adjustment I needed to make, and we're going to go ahead and start the install. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and drop the tuner into the guitar and go ahead and get these guys screwed in. So the screws are in but not tightened all the way down. Now we can go ahead and put the bushings in on the front side. So we're just going to hand tighten the bushings here with the washer flat side down. You want the bevel side up on the washer, and once we get everything into place, we'll tighten it down with the wrench. You can see here that I put this first washer on upside down, so make sure the washer is flat side down and bevel side up. Alright, so I'm going to tighten everything down. A note on tightening these, when you get to the point that they're tight, that's good. You don't need to crank them down too hard. See? Tight? Good. Done. So all that's left to do is to use the supplied 10mm wrench to tighten down the bushings on the top here. Being careful not to scratch the headstock, while at the same time tightening them down just to the point that they're snug. Alright, so tuners are on. What we're going to do now is go ahead and string it up. So if you made it this far and you didn't know why you need locking tuners, here's why. What you're going to do is run your string through the post. When you do this, what you can do is pull the string tight and then tighten down on the back of the tuner. So once you've done that, you've essentially locked it in place. So from there, you can hear me tune it up right there. All we have to do is cut off the excess. What's awesome about this, and what's really important with the locking tuners, is that your string isn't wrapping around the post. So if you have a tendency to bend the strings aggressively, or your guitar has a tremolo system on it, and you like to dive on the tremolo bar, what you'll find is that because there's no excess string wrapped around the post, the guitar itself will actually hold better tune. And that's really the whole point of locking tuners, is to give you better tuning stability. Also conveniently makes the guitar easier to string. So let's get the rest of it strung up, and I'll give you my first impressions of these tuners. If you're installing these into a Harley Benton, the only thing you really need to keep in mind is that getting the screws out of the back of the headstock was quite difficult. You'll want to have an assortment of Phillips head screwdrivers ready in case you have trouble getting them out. Other than that, it was really a super easy install that pretty much anyone can do. Alright, so here are the positives. Number one, super cheap. For $25, it's really hard to ask for much more out of a locking tuner. Number two, super easy install. Even if you've never done anything like this before, these go right in. There's no drilling or anything else that needed to be done. Zero modification to the guitar. Number three, these have a little bit more weight to them, which actually makes them feel a little bit more solid. And last but not least, number four, they're functional. They actually work quite well. I've had them on the guitar now for a little over a week, and it's held really solid tune. I think I've only had to tune it once, and it was just, a slight tune-up. So I'm incredibly pleased with the way these tuners have worked out. As far as cons go, there was only a couple of things with these tuners that concerned me. One of those issues was that two of the tuners actually felt a little tighter than they probably should be. A little too much resistance on them, and perhaps I'm being a little bit picky, but I figured I should point that out, that the resistance on them, on a few of them, was almost a little too tight. And then the second issue I had was that one of the bushings didn't seat right into the threading. So I was unable to hand tighten it. I had to use the wrench to kind of force it on a little bit. Again, not a big deal, and that sort of thing I've actually seen with more expensive tuners, so it didn't really surprise me that much to find that issue on a set of $25 tuners. Overall, I found these to be an incredible value, particularly if you're putting them on a budget instrument like a Harley Benton. I really couldn't see putting these tuners on a very expensive guitar or a $1,000 guitar. It just really wouldn't make sense to have that kind of money into a guitar and then cheap out on the tuners. However, if you have a budget instrument and you're looking for a cheap way to put locking tuners on it, these are fantastic. So if you found this video helpful and you like guitar-related content, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to know more about the pickups that I have in this guitar, be sure to check out this video right here where I do a install video. And if you're curious about how they sound, be sure to check out this video right here where I actually did a demo of them. If you have any questions, by all means, please leave them in the comments. I do try to respond to all the comments on the channel. And as always, thanks for watching.